ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في القرآن المجيد بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من أحب أن يبسط له في رزقه وأن يسأل له في أثره فليصل رحمه أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. بعد. We start in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are thankful to Allah, we are grateful to Allah. It's Allah who gave us Iman, and it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who gave us our families, our parents, our siblings. In this dunya, you can make friends, and you can leave your friends. You can get a job and join a team in that company, and you can leave that job in that company. You can even get married, and you can even leave your marriage. But you cannot leave your parents, you cannot leave your siblings, you cannot leave your children. The idea is that this is a relationship that is very important in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, ties of kinship. And in 2025, there's a big confusion when it comes to how youth are dealing with their parents. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, if you want a longer life, if you want more wealth, if you want more money, more risk, if you want more time, then you should maintain your ties of kinship. And ties of kinship is not just your parents, it's not just your children and siblings, it goes beyond that. It's actually your uncles and aunts. It's actually also your uncles and aunts. Your father's brother, your mother's brother, your father's sister, your mother's sister. These are important people to have in our lives, or at least to keep some form of communication with. Unfortunately, in the West, this is lost. No one really cares about their uncle. No one really cares about their aunt. The uncle and aunt just come for the wedding and that's pretty much it. When Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anh, he used to go and visit his aunts and uncles and do khidmah for them on a weekly basis. Khidmah for them. We talk about khidmah for our parents. The Sahaba did khidmah for their aunts and uncles. So imagine with their parents. Nonetheless, a fair question arises. And that question is that, well, how am I supposed to maintain relationship with my families if they are hard to be with? A big word that's going around, that's been going around, is the word toxic. It's the word toxic. My parents are toxic. My siblings are toxic. My in-laws are toxic. So everybody just uses this word left and right without understanding the gravity of the word. Anything goes against the way we want it, it's toxic. We wanted to do this, we couldn't do it, it's toxic. This is how sensitive we have become. We don't understand what actually toxic looks like. Toxic people are people who wake up with an idea of enmity towards you. For example, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, after he started preaching about Islam, his uncles became toxic because his uncles wanted to get him killed or get him removed. His uncles supported banishing him from their own area. That's called toxic. Someone wants to ruin your life. Someone wants to ruin your health. This is toxicity. You get into one argument with your mom, she's toxic. There is a gap. There is a big gap in our understanding. From both sides, respectfully. And it's important for us to address the youth first before the adults, because if you do it the other way, it's khilaf al-adab, it goes against etiquette. The youth have to first look at themselves before pointing fingers. Because at one point, our parents were also youth. So they had the moment to point their fingers at themselves. Now it's our turn. The problem is that we think our parents are toxic, our siblings are toxic, our in-laws are toxic, everybody is toxic except me. I'm the only one who is not toxic. And my relationship with everybody else is very healthy. I treat everyone very kindly. I don't have any tantrums. I don't get angry. I don't become emotional. I don't become over-exaggerated. I don't do any of those things. I'm actually very healthy. And everybody around me is the problem. So much so I have a problem with everybody. If you have a problem with everybody, it might be that you're the problem. If everyone has a problem with you, it could be that you're the problem. And your frame of reference is skewed. Meaning the way you're supposed to be looking at something, that's not how you're seeing it. And it's hard to hear these things because I'll tell you why. When you hear topics like this, people go and they search in their mind to find the most intimate, hurtful, painful experience. And then they listen to the speaker and they say, the speaker is wrong because he doesn't know what I went through. And this is the wrong way to understand and benefit from a lecture. If you want to benefit from a lecture, you have to look at the topic as it is, independently of your personal experiences. You have to hear the points that are made from a broad perspective that applies to all believers, not just you in your life, living on 10 Mile and Ryan, specifically at this street, in this life with these number of people that you know. It's not about you. It's about believers. This message that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave to Rasulullah is for the entire ummah. Not just you and your specific nuclear family. So you have to keep that in mind when you're hearing these lectures. You heard the worst situation of someone. You heard a case of physical abuse, and you're like, that is toxic. Physical abuse is toxic. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about general arguments that happen, and things don't go the way I want it to go, and therefore I'm being limited from what I want to do in my life, or I feel like my preferences are not being met. Hence, this is toxic. You have to understand the perspective first. Otherwise, what ends up happening is this talk starts and you close your ears. Similarly to the Quraysh, the Prophet ﷺ would recite the Quran, they would cover their ears, they would block their ears, we don't want to hear it. We don't want to hear it, but in their hearts they know it's true. So the least that we can do is at least try to hear it. Try to hear it. Open your heart to say, let me actually hear what this person has to say. The Prophet ﷺ said, maintain ties of kinship. The Prophet ﷺ knows we have problems with our family. The Sahaba had problems within their families. Everybody had struggles growing up. Deen is understanding of all that. With considering all of that, he is still saying maintain ties of kinship. With understanding all of that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, don't even say oof to your parents. Allah is all-knowing. You and I, we wake up in the morning, we say Allah is Al-Alim. Allah is all-knowing. He knows the past, He knows the present, He knows the future. Allah knows everything. He knows what's apparent. He knows what's in my heart. Okay, if you believe Allah knows everything, don't you think Allah knew that when He said, don't say oof to your parents? Allah is all-knowing. Your circumstances have been considered. That's the first problem we have. We think what we are going through, no one understands. My brother, my sister, no human will understand your hardship because they're humans. But Allah understands your hardship. And knowing your hardship, Allah gave you the hardship to deal with. And then Allah also said, He will not give you something you cannot bear. And then Allah also said, don't even say oof. So you have to look at it like what? Like a test. We have to look at it like a test. So what ends up happening is, from the youth's perspective, we want the independence, meaning we want our parents to stop telling us what to do. We want all the independence. We want the right to choose what we want to do, how we want to dress, where we want to go, how we want to be. However, we don't want any of the responsibilities. So you want the independence without the responsibility. So let me do whatever I want to do, but I don't want to be held accountable to take care of this family. I don't want to be the one who pays for the bills. This is my money. I know I'm the son, but I don't want to provide for my parents. Many people think like this. This is my money. That's my dad's money. That's my mom's money. That's my sister's money. Look at look at what the West has made us. It's so easy for everyone to get a job that we're looking at everyone's money separately. Why should I use my money? Dad has money. Dad uses money. Mom has money. There was a point where only dad had money. There was a point in your life when only dad had money. And you were a baby and you had nothing. And dad spent on you. There was a point that happened. Mom and dad spent on you, took care of you, raised you, brought you to where you are, got you a degree. Then you got a job. Now you have money and then you say it's my money. This is the condition that we're in. This is my house. It's my parents' house. So my responsibility, their responsibility. When at one point you were in the same house with your parents, and your parents' number one responsibility was you. Taking care of you, maintaining you, bringing you up, making sure you go to school safely, without even understanding English. Huh? Without even understanding English. They filled out paperwork. Your name, your first name is your last name, and your last name is your first name because they don't know English. But they still sent you to school. They still take care of you. And today, now that you have a little bit of independence, you have a little bit of money, and you want to do something in your certain lifestyle, maybe they're not supportive of it. You call them toxic. One thing we need to understand, brothers and sisters, is that parents genuinely do want the best for us. Parents might not know what's best for us all the time, but they do want what's best for us. They do want what's best for us. If you look at their heart, if you look at their intention, they woke up thinking of you. Your mother woke up at 3 a.m. to breastfeed you, nobody else. If she didn't care for you, she wouldn't have done that. But she raised you. She took care of you, she fed you. Why did they do that? Because they do want what's best for you. Does that mean they know everything about everything? No. Does that mean you know more than them in some things? It could be. But I'm talking about their heart. I'm talking about their heart. We have to understand that parents are not trying to be controlling. They're trying to guide us. But the way they come off is controlling. So we have to look at their heart and see where they're coming from. As children, this is the first thing we should keep in mind. And if we do talk about independence, before you seek independence from your parents, first seek responsibility. See how you can take care of your parents. And then you will see naturally they will respect you more. They will give you more of a say. Because you are stepping up in the household. You turn 18, first thing you want to do is you want to go out and stay out as late as you want, come back whenever you want, and you want full independence. Well, and you don't even contribute to the gas bill. You don't even know the gas bill. You don't even know the gas bill. You don't know if it's DTE or consumer energy. You're ignorant. But then you want the independence. This is the problem. You can't have both. It doesn't work like that. You have to have responsibility, brothers and sisters. There has to be a level of responsibility we take. And generally what ends up happening is you're influenced. Who are you influenced by? You're influenced by the West. Like I told you, it's easy for everyone to make money. So when it's easy for everybody to make money, you start counting money. You start counting the dollars. Whereas there are families that are living with only one person making money, maybe $2,700 a month, and they say, we're going to buy this much rice and this much curry for the entire family. It's exactly what we have, and no one's questioning anything and everyone's happy. And your household income is $10K and everyone's arguing. That's the problem. That's exactly the problem. Brothers and sisters, keep in mind that we don't want to be influenced by people, especially your friends. A lot of us, when we hang out with our friends, that's where we get some of these ideas from. Like, oh, your mom is not being right to you, your dad is not being right to you, your sister is stepping out of line. I want you to ask yourself this question. Who is advising me? Who is actually advising me? Is it someone experienced with wisdom and knowledge of deen and he's a successful father? Or is it my broke single friend sitting next to me for the last 5 years? Who doesn't have any family, all he's doing is just complaining about life. Who is advising me? Is someone reputable advising me? Or someone who just likes to complain and find faults advising me? Who's advising me? Ask yourself that question. And this is just the first part of it. Of us understanding where the disconnect is. There's another side to it too. And the other side does exist. Why does the other side exist? The other side is when parents deal with us children. When parents deal with us children, it can be hard for us at times because it does come off controlling. And the misconception that some parents have against us children is that when we disagree with something, parents might feel we're disobeying them. And I just want to share with the parents that as children, when we disagree, we don't mean to disobey. We just think differently. When we disagree, we don't mean to be disrespectful. We just have a different perspective. We just like different things than you. So maybe when you sit down to eat lunch, you always eat lunch at 2 o'clock. But we like eating lunch at 12. And maybe that's our preference. We're not disobeying. We don't want to disobey our parents. We don't want to disrespect our parents. But as human beings, many of us are at a point where we're leading independent and responsible lives where we do feel different. And when you were 20, when you were 25, when you were 30, you were also different. So parents have to look at children with a little bit more mercy, a little bit more rahmah, that we are going to be different. But we don't mean to be rebellious. We don't mean to be harsh. And when we act out, it's because of our ignorance. Brothers and sisters, this is what's happening very commonly. That there is this misunderstanding that my son said no to me, so he's disobeying me. My son doesn't like what I like, so he's going against me. He's fighting me. He's challenging me. He's opposing me. He's standing up against me. Maybe he's just speaking his mind. And it's not wrong for him to speak his mind, so long as he does it respectfully. And children need that mercy from the parents. Unfortunately, we are children. We don't know how to give mercy. But you're a parent. You've always given us mercy. So we just need more of your mercy for us to figure out the relationship, so we can maintain the ties of kinship, so we can have more barakah in our rizq, so you can have more barakah in your rizq, so we can have more barakah in our life, and you can have more barakah in your life. So our life can extend, and your life can extend. So we can live in harmony. But there will be disagreements. As human beings, even two best friends, when they become roommates, they disagree. So how can we not disagree? Disagreeing is normal. Don't look at disagreeing as disobedience. Another thing that happens sometimes that makes it hard for children is that this is reality. It doesn't make it haram, but it's reality. Parents favor one child over another child. That happens. So maybe it's been 10 years. Since I was 10 years old, I've noticed you favored my younger brother more than me, and now I'm 20. And I've always noticed you favored my younger brother more than me, and now I'm 20. It's been 10 years. So when you say something against me and you say something against him, I can't help but notice it. I can't help but notice the difference. I can't help but realize the way you speak to my little brother is different than the way you speak to me. But now I'm 30 and he's 20, and you still talk to me like I'm 20. And that's unfair. By the way, for the children, if you notice your siblings are favored more than you, this is human behavior. You have to understand that. We won't understand unless we have children. We won't understand unless we have children. Favoritism is a thing that exists. There's nothing you can do about it. But what you can do is you can work actively towards earning your parents' love. That you can do. Because if you spend more time with your parents, more than the favorite child, it's only a matter of time until you become the favorite. It's about who spends more time with their parents. It's about who gives their parents more respect. It's about who becomes more lenient with their parents. You do that, you will become the favorite child. But then your sibling will struggle. Maybe you're not the favorite child because you can handle that. And if your sibling wasn't the favorite child, they couldn't handle that. Allah places us in different positions. Allah knows where we are. But as for parents, keep in mind that if the favoritism you show is very apparent, it's going to be hard for the child to listen. It's going to be hard for the child to understand what you're trying to convey because he's always going to feel like he's being mistreated. These are small things that we need to work on. These are things we have to keep in our mind from the children's side and from the parents' side so that we can have reconciliation and so we can prevent shaitan from disrupting and removing the love in our families. أقول قولي هذا أستغفر لكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروا إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم إنك حميد مجيد أما بعد. So how do you reconcile? One side has to start. One side has to start. Either the children has to start or the parents have to start. And if you were to ask yourself, who do you think should start the discussion? I'm not saying this is a ruling, I'm just sharing my personal opinion. I think the children should start. I think the children should start. We have to start by reaching out to our parents. We claim, the youth, we claim we're more educated than our parents. We claim that we have degrees and our parents don't have degrees. We claim we have all this income and our parents never had this income. We claim we have this type of lifestyle that our parents only have because of us. Okay. If you claim for all of this, then why don't you start? Why don't you humble yourself first? If you're so intelligent and you understand so much about what's right and what's wrong, can't you figure out that the right thing to do is for you to start? We have to start. I have to start and you have to start. Because I'll tell you one thing. The last thing you want in your family, and you can go talk to the people that they have experienced this, the last thing you want in your family is that you keep arguing, disagreeing, disobeying, disrespecting to a point where you wake up one day and you don't have your father with you anymore. And then you're shattered. Your heart is broken. Then you will cry. You'll come to the Imam Sahib and say, I have regrets about my father. Brother, don't let it get to that point. I wish I treated my mother better. I could have spent more time with my mother than focusing on my business. Why don't you do that right now? Why don't you do that right now? A lot of us, we have parents that are very elderly. Very elderly. They're 65, 70, 75, 80. You expect a person who's 75 years old to interact with you on an intellectual level as a 35-year-old? It's a 30, 40-year difference. If you're 30, how would you expect a 10-year-old to act with you? That's a 20-year difference. So if you're 30, how do you expect a 70-year-old to act with you? This is our problem. We have the wrong expectations. We have unfair expectations. We have to start. Wallahi, we have to be the ones who start. Brothers and sisters, we need to understand that if those circumstances do arise, now we can talk about those specific exceptions. When there are actual serious cases of toxicity in your family, the first thing you should do is not decide by yourself whether it's toxic or not. If you feel very confident and if you feel very sure that your family members are toxic, Come to the masjid, have a private session with the imam, and tell him your side of the story. And be honest about what you do, how you behave, how you interact. Don't just share half the story. Share the full story. If you think your in-laws are toxic, come talk to the imam. But first make sure you explain what you're doing wrong. There's a phrase where it says it takes two hands to clap. You can't clap with one hand. And then the imam can help you understand whether or not it's actually toxic. Because who are you to decide whether it's toxic? We don't know. The last thing you want to do is cut off a relationship when you should have preserved it. Because when you cut off the relationship, you cut off your relationship with Allah. It's another hadith, it's mentioned. Rahim, which means ties of kinship, is from the same word Ar-Rahman, related. It's related to Ar-Rahman himself. It comes in hadith. So before you cut off ties with your parents and your family members, keep in mind that you're cutting off a tie with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when you do that. Unless it's actually an extreme case. And if it's an extreme case, you need a mediator. You need someone to get involved and actually support you. You need someone who's going to support you with an Islamic background. Not your best friend. Not a non-Muslim therapist. Find someone who is Muslim who can actually help you. Because they have to keep the idea and the perspective of Islam when they're advising you. Share your story. But even then, don't cut them off from the phone. Still call your parents. Maybe you have a very extreme case where you end up moving out after you do mediation, after you get a third person's opinion with an Islamic background, but you don't stop communication. You don't stop communication with the woman who gave birth to you. You don't stop communication with the man who spent on you. With his money, you were wearing diapers. You don't get to do that. Even if it's once a week, you need to communicate. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reconcile our relationship with our parents, with our children, with our spouses, with our cousins, with our aunts, with our uncles. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to live in harmony. May Allah make us humble enough to make the first step towards reconciling these relationships, towards making sure that we're actually living in harmony. Wallahi, I asked this question last night. Who in here wants to go to Jannah alone? Nobody wants to go to Jannah alone. Everybody wants to go to Jannah with their mom, their dad, their spouse, their children, everybody. Even if you don't like them, you still want them to go to Jannah. Because what's the other option? We don't want to talk about the other option. We all want to go to Jannah together. So make dua that Allah takes us and our families. Ya Allah, enter us and our families into your paradise together. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us. May Allah give Jannat al-Firdaus al-A'la to our brothers and sisters who are suffering overseas, in Gaza, in Lebanon, in Syria, in Somalia, in Bangladesh, all over the world. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us. May Allah make us men and women that have healthy relationships. Let shaitan not get between our families. Shaitan's number one objective is to disrupt the family. We will not let shaitan do that to us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our families. عباد الله اتقوا الله إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون وأقيموا الصلاة